Sometimes this world is just cruel. We just have to accept that. 2 days ago, the world lost Jay Briscoe. Many of you know that he was half of one of arguably the greatest tag teams of all time. This guy was amazing to watch. In the ring, he was a general. Almost like he had a sixth sense in his surroundings. And his ability to move in the ring, well, it was something more akin to a Marvel movie. Johnny Valentine once said, "I can't make them believe that wrestling is real, but I can make them believe I'm real." That was Jay Briscoe. He made you believe he was real. I don't know if there'll ever be another guy like Jay Briscoe. And quite honestly, I don't know if the world could handle another Jay Briscoe. We salute you, sir. Former Ring of Honor World Champion, 13-time Ring of Honor Tag Team Champion, IWGP Tag Team Champions, and of course, the 2022 Crockett Cup Champions. You'll be missed.
Let's give Claire a warm welcome. Claire, what grade are you in?
Right now I'm in 4th, but I'm soon going to be in 5th.
That's good. I'm glad you know the future. That's perfect. Now, why are you excited to be here tonight?
Because I'm just excited.
Yeah. No other explanation. Now, I do believe, tell me the truth, is it true that your dad has a ringside seat but didn't get you guys ringside seats?
That is true, but it's because of his YouTube channel, okay? It's his YouTube, okay?
Her dad's an influencer. Let him go, guys. But your dad's awesome, right?
Yeah.
See, he's awesome.
Can you believe that there are some people in this world that did not tune in to the Alliance Vlog podcast? Shame on you! Shame on you! My name is Ella Indy, and I'm one half of the NWA Women's World Tag Team Champion. And I'm Kinsey Page, the other half of the NWA World Women's Tag Team Champion. And you better go listen to the Alliance Vlog, what is it called again? Podcast, period. Or you're ugly. Pretty Empower approved.
Mi gente, you already know who it is. It's the radioactive pop with Danny Limelight, United Wrestling Network World Heavyweight Champion. And make sure you tune into the Alliance Vlog every week. You heard it here first. Straight from Poppy.
Hey guys, check this out. I am officially now sponsored by Dubby. Dubby is a clean energy drink made to give you focus with no crash. If you guys are like me, you're always needing a burst of energy, especially with one with no crash. Dubby contains vitamins, amino acids, a nootropic, and 150 milligrams of caffeine. It keeps me awake with no jitters, guys. Check it out. Merch link is in the bio. Dubby.
Are you ready?
Power. You want answers? I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth. You can't handle the truth.
What we've got here is failure to communicate.
I'm building an alliance. God bless the internet.
Okay, let's party.
It's showtime.
It's time for the Alliance Guys podcast with your hosts Kevin Frazier, Jaden, DKM, and J. Cal.
Welcome all to the Alliance Guys podcast, a presentation of alliance-wrestling.com, your number one source for news and information for the National Wrestling Alliance and the United Wrestling Network. My name is Jay Cal, and with me, of course, is Jaden and the DKM. Gentlemen, welcome to the show. How are you?
Well, after that long introduction, we're glad to say that, we'll see you next week, and we hope you enjoyed the show. I need a drink now. Jaden?
I'd recommend Dubby.
Of course you would.
By the way, Jay, it's nootropic.
Nootropic? Well, I'll have
nootropic.
I'll have to remember that the next time I record.
It's kind of like troodon. It actually doubles on that O. The OO is said twice.
Is it kind of like
nootropic? What was the question?
Is it kind of like Kahungus?
Kahungus? Yes. There's no end in there, though. There's no end to this podcast sometimes.
Well, you know what I found out today? That this podcast has been mostly active longer than the Busted Open radio show that you can hear on Sirius XM. We predate Busted Open.
I don't know if that's incredible or scary.
A little bit of both. Mm-hmm. So,
or at least cuter.
What's that?
Or at least cuter.
I think so. And I'll prop up my children too in the videos to make sure we get that extra cute, wholesome vibe. It's been a rough week, guys. I know you both are obviously familiar with Jay Briscoe and his untimely passing. It hit really hard. Being a father, knowing that my day-to-day has involved me picking up my children from various activities and knowing that, he was just being a dad. He wasn't out there drinking and partying. He wasn't doing drugs and being crazy. He wasn't jumping out in front of trains. I mean, this was just a guy being a dad. And damn, like I said in the opening video, it's hard, man. And I put myself in his shoes all the time. Like that's my worst nightmare, for me to, leave this world, leave my kids behind, leave my wife behind, and to struggle with what's left of their lives. And it's really hard, and it hit me very hard. And I still get teary-eyed when I think about his children, because I have young daughters too. And man, aside from the fact that he was a great wrestler, I mean, forget all that, because it's almost meaningless at this point. He was what sounded like a very good man. And, I didn't know Jay Briscoe personally. I didn't know the Briscoes at all personally. I was fortunate enough to watch them in the ring dating back to like 2003, 2004, when they had their appearances at Pro Wrestling Guerrilla. Lucky enough, I got to see him at the Crockett Cup 2019 and again at the Crockett Cup in 2022. But man, that one was hard. Jaden, I know that the Briscoes kind of broke into pro wrestling on your side of the country, on the East Coast. What did they mean for pro wrestling, and how do you feel about how are you handling the situation?
It is very sad, honestly. I'm very sad about it. I've worked with the Briscoes in various companies about maybe half a dozen or more times. Very, very cool people in the back. I was telling DK the story about how they weren't allowed to wrestle in Pennsylvania because they weren't old enough. So they were calling themselves under a mask the Midnight Riders. And luckily, the Athletic Commission's not above taking a little to
sample?
Look the other way.
Oh,
and yeah. So it was great though to see them under that. And then when they finally got to wrestle under their name, the Briscoe Brothers. Well, their wrestling name, the Briscoe Brothers. It was really awesome. Again, they were in the first Ring of Honor event ever. They've been in all the major companies throughout the Northeast. Obviously, they've been to some of the biggest companies in the world. It's a shame certain network executives weren't allowing them to be on national television, because I think that's definitely, in my opinion, a horrible, horrible miscarriage of justice. and we'll never get to see them again as a tag team. I'm not even sure if Mark's even going to wrestle again, but we always have the memories, and we have all the good things that they brought. And 3 is probably some of the greatest tag team matches in modern history that we can look back on fondly and think about them.
GK, what are your memories of the Briscoe brothers, specifically Jay, and how are you handling this situation?
Well, it's one of those things that's just truly, truly heartbreaking. I mean, 38 years old. That used to be prime wrestling age. A lot of modern fans don't realize, but, a lot of guys wrestled 10, 15, 20 years before before they became the stars that we knew them to be. And, 38 was young back in the day. And it's just devastating that, like I said, there was no part. He wasn't wearing a seatbelt, but I don't think it would have mattered from what I get. But it was the other person that came into his lane.
Yeah.
And that person was
the
also
other person. What she was wearing a seatbelt and she still passed.
Yeah.
I don't know that a seatbelt would have. I mean,
I don't think it would have mattered.
No, I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm still advocating everyone wear a seatbelt, but I don't. With the driver, the other driver losing their life, I don't know that it would have made a difference.
Because it sounds like they smashed. Basically, it wasn't straight head on, but like they would have been facing each other's head on, and it's just horrible. And I don't know if anybody knows how's the one girl doing that was going in for surgery. I mean, people are still posting the, hey, we need prayers for this, and it's like, okay, that was 2 days ago. Do we know if she's doing okay?
I've only heard rumors. I heard she messed up her back really bad in the accident, and that's what the surgery was on. So it could, there people say things and make it much worse, or maybe even not bad as it normally is. But until I know more, I don't want to say, but I do know her back was badly messed up in the accident.
I had heard the same thing, and I heard that there's a chance she might not even walk, which, I mean, again, if you do pray, please pray for them. If you don't pray, if you send positive vibes or just have good positive thoughts about that family, please do so. I also in the live chat, and I'll also put it in the link description later, we put a link to their fundraiser. So if you would like to personally contribute to the family's recovery, please contribute what you can. This is one of those times where, like, humanity has a way of kind of showing us the best and worst in people. And Jay's passing wasn't expected, wasn't planned. Nobody was expecting it. And it's awful. I know because Jay was signed with AEW, and this is one of the beautiful things that Tony Khan has done. Like, he took care of his people. He took care of Brody Lee's family, and hopefully they do the same for Jay's family. But it's rough. Poyo is in the chat. Poyo just said it was stated very directly by Ashley, her mother, Jay's wife, that the surgery was an effort to restore the ability to walk. So, I mean, it's a serious situation. So again, if you believe in the power of prayer, please pray for that family. If that's not your thing, you send positive vibes. I don't want to spend the entire show talking about this. I feel people who are more qualified and closer to the situation have done a much better job than we could. Besides, I don't want to start crying on a podcast that I love. So, but I will say this: I was grateful to be able to see Jay Briscoe. I don't know that we'll ever see a tag team like the Briscoe brothers again. They are arguably the greatest tag team, definitely of this era, maybe of all time. And we were lucky to have them win the Crockett Cup. We were lucky to see them in the NWA, and that's all I wanted to say about it. Do either one of you guys want to say anything else about it?
Just real quick, somebody was saying that Jay Briscoe was one of those people who could 1 second be totally intimidating, like you said in your introduction. You believed he was real, and he was. I mean, I think the Briscoe brothers are pretty much what you saw.
Yeah.
And but they said something to the effect of, he's one of those people that can be intimidating at one moment and then warm and loving the next. Look at the number of people who have tweeted about him or posted something about him. Even NXT recognized his passing, and the Briscoes are one of the very top tag teams that, of course, never worked in WWE
because it never even worked for them.
Never.
And that's the respect that they earned all across the board.
And so that's, you're losing a very real, a very warm, a very loving family man. And I don't think anybody can watch the video of him doing like a cheer routine with his youngest daughter now and not shed a tear, if not flat out bawl by the time it's over. Rest in peace, brother.
Let's just take a moment of silence here, and we'll kind of cleanse the palate real quick. So wrestling's supposed to be fun, so we're gonna have some fun. There wasn't a whole lot going on with the NWA this week, of course. I don't know if I don't like it. Over the course of the last year and a half, almost 2 years, I really got used to watching the NWA on a weekly basis, and we haven't had any content, in-ring content, in 2 weeks, and we're going to be going on 3 weeks here soon, and it doesn't hit my feels right. And now, of course, they did have the interview with Dr. Tom Pritchard, and I thought that was awesome. It might have even been better than the episode they had with Austin Idol. Both of them were just a lot of fun stories from the territory days. I knew that Dr. Tom had spent some time at the Grand Olympic. I don't know how he got to the Grand Olympic, but if you listen to the stories, it's fun how if you guys hadn't listened yet, how Dr. Tom started working for Paul Bosch, and they did talk a lot about the Paul Bosch territory, and how I didn't know this, and DKM, you might have known this, but they were saying that Paul Bosch wasn't directly a member of the NWA. Have you heard that before?
Oh yeah, I've known that for a long time.
I didn't know that. I thought Bosch.
It was odd in that who he worked for and who he had broke in with was the Texas NWA member.
Yeah.
And then when there was kind of that split, and then Dallas took over the booking office. So it was Fritz and Joe Blanchard.
Mm-hmm.
And they were Fritz and Joe Blanchard were supposed to be kind of partners. Really, all three of them were supposed to be. But Paul never joined the NWA. And so it was like Fritz and Joe who were supposed to be like partners. And, Fritz was a strong personality both in and out of the ring. And so Fritz just ended up basically taking over. And then, you know, Joe went his own way and opened his own booking office. And yeah, but up through the late 70s, Fritz was the NWA member in Texas. He was the NWA member for almost all of Texas, except for what the Funks had out in West Texas. And Paul Bosch actually booked his talent through Fritz, and actually he booked it through Gary Hart, and a lot of people don't know that about 80% of the card was booked by Gary Hart. But then Joe would go out and get, like, you know, the AWA champion or the WWF champion or something like that, and bring him in and make the NWA members mad.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but a lot of people also didn't know that Nick Bockwinkel owned a piece of the Houston office, and his thing was he was going to retire in Houston and be working more in the Houston office when he left the AWA.
See, this is stuff I never even knew about.
Yeah, well,
that's why it was easy to get the AWA champion, because when you own a piece of the office, you're going to want to work for the promotion to make money, right?
So and there were equal times where Bosch was booking talent from the Worldwide Wrestling Federation as well. So in that little corner of Houston, Texas, he was literally booking talents from the 3 major wrestling promotions
at one time. Yeah, so since he did not have a booking office, since he didn't run it, he went out and got talent. And so he was very similar to St. Louis. A lot of people forget that St. Louis didn't have a lot of talent that it was its own. They brought in a lot of talent. And that's what Bosch did. He brought in a lot of talent. And just Tito Santana, during his first reign as Intercontinental Champion, actually wrestled down in Houston.
Huh.
I don't think he brought the belts, but I think they did recognize him as champion, you know, and everything. I can't remember who he wrestled, like Butch Reed or somebody.
What a weird. But and it wasn't long after that, Butch Reed was in the WWE or WWF too.
Yeah, at that time, Bosch was working with Mid-South, which is how that happened. But yeah, that's where you'll get things like, even when he kind of went his own way and stopped working with Fritz, you know, he would get talent from either Mid-South, or he'd get talent from or he'd get talent from Joe Blanchard
and the Guerreros.
Yeah, and the Guerreros. That he had plenty of sources, but you would get matchups that you wouldn't get anywhere else. And, you know, a lot of people don't know that the Von Erichs would wrestle on the same card as, you know, like the Rock and Roll Express. Because, you know, that's where they saw each other. The Rock and Roll Express and the Von Erichs would see each other in St. Louis, and they'd see each other in Houston.
Poyle points out that prior to the WWF going global on cable, all of those old territorial promotions featured stars of the NWA, WWF, AWA, etc. I guess that's something that I wasn't aware of, but, you know, I'll be honest, outside of the LA territory, the Grand Olympic stuff, I'm not super knowledgeable about the old, you know, specific territory days. And that's kind of what I really enjoy about the podcast at the NWA's, I say podcast, I guess it's just a live interview that Billy's been doing with both Idol and with Dr.
Tom.
Richard. Yeah, Dr. Tom. They've been so like interesting because it's stuff that I'm not familiar with. I mean, I have a few critiques of the show, like, you know, like Billy has this memorabilia that he's holding, and he holds it up to the camera, but you can't see shit. It's like, hey guys, maybe scan that in and put it as an overlay so the audience can actually see what you're talking about. But other than that, I really felt like these have been very great pieces. And like I said last week, the interview with Austin Idol was my favorite thing that Billy has done on camera with the NWA. And this one was no different. Did you get a chance to watch it yet, DK?
I watched about half of it, and I enjoyed this one better than I enjoyed the Austin Idol one. But I liked Dr. Tom when he was a wrestler. Of course, I didn't like Austin Idol when he was a wrestler, and so and I remember him, from the Georgia days and everything, and he was the first one that I ever saw. What do they call it now? Where one guy's will be like holding your foot, and the other one does like a round kick to the head.
Tag team.
Enziguri?
Yes, that's it. Enziguri.
Oh.
This was before, we had all the Japanese names. But there was Dr. Tom used to throw people into the corner and then run up to them and kick them in the stomach with one foot and then do the enziguri, like they were holding it. And so I just remember thinking that was so cool that he could do that.
That's because he used to quote unquote load the boot.
Yes, when the times he works as heel, but he would even do it as a face. And by the way, one of my other people who I love seeing do that was Kabuki, who when he did it, instead of going, kicking forward and over, he spun back around and did it. That was just awesome. I miss those days so much.
You talk about because
I love the Briscoes because they reminded me of those days.
Well, because this is a free for all, and we're not really limited to a normal show. We're just going to talk about everything. And I was on TikTok the other day, getting ready to do my next dance step, and then I saw a video of the Hart brothers taking on the Steiner brothers from WWE, and I remember watching that on a Saturday morning. I think it was on the All-Star Wrestling or Classic or whatever they used to call it. I can't remember. And that match was so damn good, and such a Brett and Owen didn't team that often in the WWF, but that matchup with the Steiner brothers, they looked like they had been teaming forever, and it was such a good wrestling match, and it was so snug and suplexes and clotheslines and takedowns and grappling. It was just, man, one of my favorite wrestling matches I've probably ever saw on those Saturday mornings, and it was nice to be reminded of that again.
I believe I still own it on a Coliseum home video.
Make me a copy.
I have no idea where it is now, but I think it's around here somewhere.
I recently invested in one of those VHS converters to like digital, and I have a couple of old wrestling tapes that I plan to convert so that I can watch them again, because I don't even own a VCR at this point, but I think I need to borrow somebody's to actually get it to work, but you know what I'm saying. James H. Jackson said the channel NWA airtime in 5 days. Austin Idol. Don't miss NWA Presents Austin Idol Part 2, hosted by William Patrick Corgan. And then Sam Retro said something that I kind of said earlier in the week, or maybe it was last week. They should have been doing these on YouTube with every legend that they've brought on with ties to the old NWA. And I mean, there's still time to do that. I mean, Medusa would be somebody, I think, especially her perspective in wrestling in Japan and the limited amount of territories that there were for women to work. I would love to hear her on the podcast. They have I don't know how much Raven is still available, but people forget Raven spent a lot of time in the territory days before joining WCW as Scotty Flamingo. I mean, he was working with Don Owens out in Portland for a very long time.
Got fired in Florida.
We'll say that again.
Got fired from Florida.
How did he get fired from Florida?
If I remember correctly, he pissed Dusty Rhodes off.
Sounds about right. And then Poyo said, my Twitch stream has been full of Dr. Tom for months and months. We streamed all of the Smoky Mountain, then USWA. I for the last 2 weeks after this show has ended, I've been jumping onto Poyo's stream, and it's a hoot, if I can use that term. Poyo, it's a lot of fun. Poyo will sit there and stream some of the old, what Poyo's been airing lately has been the Joe Kazana Promotions, which is the partners that they have in Tennessee, and like especially if you like the old NWA Smoky Mountain stuff. It's very comparable to not only Cornette's vision, but also Tony Given's vision when he was a part of the NWA.
Well, that was fun.
What was that?
Hmm?
That was you, DK. That wasn't me.
No, I know. That was me.
All right. Well, so yeah, if you guys after this show, if you're looking for something to do, make sure you jump on with Pollo. I think Pollo goes on while this show still airs, but I still recommend after this show to go hang out with Pollo because a lot of fun wrestling, a lot of hot takes from Pollo, and
I
it's
can watch her while the show's going
on. You cannot. The audience can. And then Dave Scooby points out that Baby Doll, Jazz, maybe bringing Tully since he's done with AEW. Yeah, Jazz would be very interesting because she kind of broke in. I guess after the territories were already done, Rodney Mack
towards the end.
Yeah, towards the end, Rodney Mack would probably be a good person to use too. I mean, I don't know if he's still around, but I'm sure you could talk him into showing up. See what I did there?
His twin is still there.
No, kayfabe lives, brother.
Hey, I'm just saying his twin's still there.
Yeah, I mean, and then James Bell and Pollo both pointed out that Dr. Tom is still doing commentary for those promotions. Hell, I want Dr. Tom to do commentary for the NWA. Look, you've got 2 shows. There's plenty of announcing to go around. James H. Jackson said Steamboat. Doty says Ricky Morton. I mean, yeah, they had Barry Windham. They had Tommy Wildfire Rich. Hell, they had Nature Boy Ric Flair.
We're doing this in free-for-all way. What happened to Ricky Steamboat?
He just was there for that one taping, and they just had his role kind of roll out for a few episodes. But
I mean, they kind of brought him in like, oh, he's going to be here and working and doing the, he sits there and does the tournament, and before the tournament's even done, it's like he's gone. And I was just like,
the check cashed and he was done. No, I don't think there were plans to use him long term, especially like I know that he was planning that return match, and I don't know how soon that was contrived between the time that he was working with the NWA briefly and when that happened. But
I mean, I wasn't expecting him long term, but it was just kind of weird. He just like disappeared. It was like, well, we're still doing the tournament he was talking about, but he's gone.
Yeah, Pollo just points out he was there for a day. It wasn't a long-term agreement. They were happy to have him for whatever time we could get. Yeah,
I'd be happy to get him.
Yeah, and I think again, hopefully these videos are getting watched by the fans. Hopefully they're picking up some steam for the NWA because honestly, I think this is a great opportunity for Billy to, build up the library, if you will, kind of grow the content, the IP that they have. He does a great job on this. And I've heard people say, oh, he's kind of pushy and he kind of, who cares? He's a rock star, for crying out loud. He's a rock star that loves pro wrestling. And he's giving you an opportunity to kind of get inside his head with the questions that he asks, and gives us an opportunity to see where his mind is at. And I think these are great. I hope they continue to do them even when the show returns. And Pollo, I know that they listen to you. I know that you're like their number one voice inside that locker room. Please tell them that we enjoy these and to keep making them happen. The silence is deafening. Jaden, have you watched either one of those episodes yet? I know like you don't watch the actual product per se, but have you tuned into any of these?
No. I may listen to the Dr. Tom one. For some reason, I've always had this aversion to Austin Idol. Everything about him has, since the Territory days when these were actually live, and I was collecting tapes of Continental and USA and US and Memphis and everywhere else. I just never could stand Austin Idol. Just couldn't at all.
I think I've told this story before on this podcast, but I'll say it again. When Adam Pearce was doing a show somewhere in the Mid-South area, probably Tennessee, maybe even like Kentucky, he was cutting a promo, and Austin Idol was the one interviewing him. And Austin Idol, like Austin Idol would, says, "Hey, that's great, champ, but what about me? Do you think you can give me a shot at the belt?" Now, Idol, this was like maybe 10 or 15 years ago. So I'm not saying that Idol, I don't think he was still wrestling 10 or 15 years ago.
I do.
Do you really?
Yeah.
I think he made appearances.
I know appearances, but like actually in the ring.
No,
wrestling?
I mean, I think he made occasional in-ring appearances.
Whoa. Well, anyways, I mean, I don't know, and I gotta find that video somewhere because I don't know if Pierce took him serious. I don't know if Pierce was like, "Is this real?" I just remember thinking like, man, and it reminded me so much of like when Blue Demon went into business for himself at the 70th anniversary show and said, "Hey, I want the winner of Cody versus Aldis."
We should have booked it.
Yeah. Dodie says, yes, Austin Idol once challenged Adam Pearce during one of the Legend Fan Fest. Okay. I don't remember when, but I see Poyo was like 10 or 15 years ago. He was under 60. Yes, but I don't think he was in prime wrestling condition. I know at one point Adam Pearce was supposed to wrestle Larry Zbyszko, and then that got turned upside down. But I don't want to see that. And I certainly don't want to see Austin Idol wrestling Adam Pearce or anybody else for that matter.
Do you remember
this one?
Do you remember Larry Zbyszko versus the Sheik, where they both had their belts? Larry Zbyszko was like there with the AWA belt, and Sheik was there with the NWA belt, and of course, neither one of them was champion at the time. Obviously, AWA was long since closed, and they're literally going, "Well, we never lost our titles. They were pushing this like being a real, you should be interested, title unification match between, someone who hadn't wrestled in years." And
Poyo brings up a good point. And please understand when I say this, that I'm not saying that these guys aren't still knowledgeable of how to wrestle and still probably couldn't shoot on somebody. I'm just saying I don't necessarily want to watch that matchup.
I don't know. I'd like to see Larry Zbyszko shoot on the Sheik.
that could have been fun.
Oh, shit. You're right. I take it back.
Well, but some of these people, could they, there's difference. Can they still get in the ring and do stuff? I mean, maybe. Jerry Lawler had a heart attack and continued to wrestle after, and people still told me, Jerry can still go. He's better than 90% of the indie wrestlers out there. I go, oh man, what a horrible statement about 90% of the indie wrestlers out there.
Oh man.
You're not making Jerry Lawler look good. You're just making everything else look terrible.
Well, to play the devil's advocate, Bill Mulkey in the 80s was better than 90% of today's wrestlers. So,
well, I'm not going to argue with you there. I mean, look, I saw Larry Holmes challenge Mike Tyson, and I saw Muhammad Ali challenge Larry Holmes, and could Ali still beat most boxers in the boxing ring back then? Probably. Okay.
Poyo wants to promote the next Brawl for Geritol.
That was good. All right. So
I don't think I need to be part of this one. No, but seriously, my point being, Ali probably could have beaten most of the boxers out there, even when he was losing to Larry Holmes and Trevor Burbank. But he wasn't going to beat any top guy.
Okay. I'm going to break character here, break the story, break the break the
When?
format. And I might get in trouble for this, but I think if anyone deserves to see it, it's our audience. So I'm going to try to do this. And let's see if it works.
Is that Joe Pedicino
Yes.
and Bonnie Blackstone?
Yes. Well, I can see it, but I can't hear it.
Oh,
Yeah, there's no audio.
sorry.
Austin A looks exactly the same, though.
I think he's in a little bit better shape. Not a ton, but a little bit. Bear's looking like he's getting ready to go down on him with a few punches.
Am I supposed to be doing like commentary over this?
I don't know.
Maybe you can read the closed captioning.
I dropped it. It's a shame that the audio didn't cut through.
Probably not. Just guys, so we'll send the link to the YouTube in the chat. Make sure you just click the link that way.
Yeah, that's actually probably a better idea than me doing what I was trying to do. But yeah.
What about those suspenders on what look like sweatpants?
I mean, there you go. I see.
And when did Bonnie Blackstone steal from Dolly Parton?
Well, she always did that. That's nothing new.
Not to that extent.
Yeah. Maybe Bonnie Blackstone was secretly Jolene.
Maybe.
Yeah. You guys are
Bonnie.
Well, now you know why she had to change it to Jolene, because the Bonnie just doesn't work.
That's true.
Sam Retro brings up a good point, and Idol doesn't look bad right there. I think the video that I saw was a little bit different, but maybe it's the same. Maybe I just blended my old memories together. I don't know. Right here, Poyo says, "You keep Dolly's sainted name out of your whore mouth." Let's see. Luthez said, "If you know what Geritol is, it has said something about us." Well, yeah, we're all getting up there, guys. Willie Bowen brings up a toddler can beat the current WWE roster. I mean, I've known a few toddlers, and they ain't shit. I mean, I could take on at least two of them.
I don't know. Jaden and I shared a video of this kid that, how old was he, Jaden? 4?
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure he could beat most of them. I'm pretty sure he could beat all the indie talent and probably most of the talent on the top 2 promotions. It is Dolly's birthday today. My brother posted that.
Well, I think Dolly Parton should be it's like the patron saint of Southern hospitality. She just seems like such a sweet person. I've never met her personally, but she's my people's for sure.
Hey, I'm old enough. I was around. I remember the songs like Jolene and
I remember 9 to 5.
Code of Many Colors.
Just real quick heads up, only parts of Dolly, it's her birthday today.
Oh, shit.
Some of it's not even 18 yet.
Oh.
Man, Jaden, it was nice knowing you.
What did I say that was inaccurate?
But just like that, Jaden got canceled.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, when a certain group finds out about what you just said, they'll find you. They always find you. We all love Dolly.
Dolly's dead to me. Hey, I said nothing that was inaccurate.
Not the point.
You know what, though? I will say, everybody loves Dolly Parton. And I will argue with anybody that people that say Miley Cyrus can't sing. She does better when she does covers of songs. Her covers of songs are great, better than anything she sings. Pretty much like her actual music. I love most of her covers song, whether it's rock or country or anything. She does really good covers.
I 100% agree with that sentiment. I think Miley Cyrus was miscasted as a pop star. I think she should be doing like either flat out country music or like alternative rock and roll type music.
She did what was the song? I can't think of it now, but she did
Jolene
Fleetwood Mac really well.
Oh yeah.
She did why can't I think of who sang The Wall? I'm drawing up complete blank.
Pink Floyd.
Pink Floyd. She did Pink Floyd extremely well. I've seen her do Metallica extremely well. You know, anybody who says anything, I'm going to argue with. Everybody knows I'm always right, so I'll win that argument.
But as Pollo said earlier, you're not wrong. We just don't say that out loud.
That is very true.
And James Bell said Dolly just introduced her new line of Dolly Duncan. Oops, I missed that. Dolly Duncan Hines cake, biscuit, and cornbread mixes. So you too can be having cake like Dolly.
Oh, I don't think anyone can have cake like Dolly.
Willie's not a big Miley Cyrus fan, but we're going to agree to disagree here, Willie.
Hey, Willie, Miley Cyrus hates Tyrus.
Wrestling with MMA, our pal Jeremy says, how in the blue blazer did this turn into a Miley Cyrus discussion? This is the free-for-all, my friend. We're taking a cue from you guys yesterday and just letting it all hang out.
Hey, to throw this...
Like Dolly lets it all hang out, too.
Working 9 to 5. You know, there were like 47 verses to that song.
Really?
Yeah, because basically as the movie was filming, she would keep adding verses to parts that had...
All right, biggest pop ever.
Pollo, if you weren't already my favorite person, you just quickly became it.
We're gonna try to get Pollo on with the Alliance guys. Maybe in February, maybe the first show in February. We'll try to work it out. We're gonna, as we're kind of breaking format here, we're gonna return to doing some of the live interviews and stuff that we used to do back in the day. Before this show became a strictly review recap of Power, we used to do a lot of interviews on this show. We've done a few in the past year or so. But I'd kind of like to get back more into that. Power is fine, and we'll still be talking about Power, but I think it'd be fun to have some interviews back on here where the three of us, are talking to talents. And Pollo, Pollo doesn't need our show to put her over, but it should be fun to have on here and just talk some wrestling. So we're gonna have Pollo on, hopefully, like maybe the first show in February.
Hey, speaking of interviews, one of the people that we did interview within this last year was, of course, our good buddy Jack Stain.
Yeah.
And so I'm going through Facebook and I see this post where Jack Stain's talking about working out, that he's finally healed up several injuries, and he's like finally able to work out with some, what was it, like 25-pound dumbbells or something like that. I mean, and I'm just going, you had the year you had and you were so injured you couldn't you couldn't work out with 25-pound dumbbells. Oh shit, just wait for what's to come, people.
Think about that for just a minute. This guy has been hampered by an injury and he still won the national championship. And he look, I get there was some extenuating circumstances, but that dude won the title. He was your national champion for about 3 or 4 months there.
And it probably explains why he didn't do more, because like a lot of us are, man, I wish you'd do more. Now we understand why, but if that guy's back to full health and able to work out and go in and out burger and everything, man, just yeah.
Our pal James wants to create civil war here in the chat and wants us to bring Tyrus on for an interview. Look, Tyrus would never come on this podcast because we are not big time, and that's okay. This show isn't for the big time. This show is for up and comers and those coming back down, and we'll catch them one way or the other.
So Jay,
yeah,
Jay,
yeah,
okay, Jay. I have a question for you.
Let's go.
NWA returned to live shows at the beginning of January. So they had what, one?
What do you mean, tapings for this year or for?
Well, I said live shows. I'm sorry, shows on YouTube, where that was our first thing seeing it. It wasn't behind the paywall.
I think they had one. Yeah, the season finale was the last one that was the first episode that was back on YouTube on Tuesdays.
Are you surprised that it's only garnered 56,000 views? I mean, that's only 9,000 more than the episode before.
Yeah, well, so we've talked a lot about this offline as well.
Yes, you are, Pollo.
There was a time when the NWA was hitting 100Ks, 200Ks on those videos. And you know, when they pulled everything off of YouTube, when they did that, there were still videos on there that had 200,000 views, right? If you go back and look at the analytic, well, I guess you can't because they pulled it all off. They wiped off the site. And I don't know what the purpose was for that. I mean, if I had been the NWA during this time, I think I would have just privated those videos because you still would have had those huge numbers. But they literally deleted them off the channel. And I think that was at a point where Billy was ready to just shut the doors down and close it up. Obviously that changed because then they came, you know, they ended up coming back, but they also made that deal with Fight. But, you know, those shows, the first two seasons were averaging, you know, between 180 to 200,000 views in a week and a half's time. And I think, you know, I think they got there because they had the right mix of talent. Of course, it didn't hurt that Jim Cornette was and his group of fans were tuning into the show. And when he left, there was a decline. Obviously, there was a huge decline, but they were still averaging over 100,000 views in a week's time. And yeah, it does surprise me that they're only at 50, but they didn't do a whole lot to kind of say, hey, world, come look at us. Now that this live episode is happening on the 31st, you know, man, I really felt like this was an opportunity for them to strike. And who knows, maybe it is, but like the way that it's been booked so far, so what's been announced, there's nothing that's saying, hey, this is must watch, that you need to watch this live, because like, you know, we're plugging a wedding that didn't even really have much time to be built up, right? Like Macho and Miss Elizabeth was something that was built up over years and years, and we were invested in the relationship. The NWA hasn't given us a reason to invest in Aaron Stevens and May. There hasn't been an emotional attachment to that. So I feel like this is okay. This isn't really anything that's gonna stick with me long term. Luthez said Ellsworth got the NWA more views than anyone. It still hurts to know that. Yeah. That was the live match that they did in Hollywood. But anyways, I digress. They haven't built this show up to be like must-see TV. There's a contract signing between Cardona and Tyrus. Maybe that should have just been the title match. Maybe that would have gotten people to tune in. Now I get it because you're trying to build up to the pay-per-view as well, but like, you're not giving anyone a reason to be excited. Am I wrong?
No, not at all. In fact, I didn't even know it was coming back.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess I knew it was coming back, but I had no idea when or any details. And I remember hearing about the wedding, but I think I kind of put that out of my mind.
Yeah. Wrestling with MMA wants everyone to know that they had 116 views on their video last night, which that was an episode. I don't tune into every minute of that show, but I do watch a good chunk of it every week. And that show last night was a doozy, but it was a fun show. If you guys haven't watched it yet, when you're done watching Pollo show tonight, go back and watch the other Lions guys. And then if you want to fall asleep, go watch the pre-party. It was a lot of fun too. Matt Vermillion says, what wrestlers were on then? And I think he means back with the first 2 seasons. Now you had Nick Aldis, you had the wild card, which was Tom Latimer and Royce Isaacs. You had Josephus, you had in his counterpart, the Mongrovian, the question mark. You had Ricky Starks. You had Trevor Murdoch. You had Eli Drake, now known as LA Knight. You had James Storm, Colt Cabana, Ken Anderson. You had Mims as an enhancement role. You had Sal the Pal as an enhancement role.
The Rock and Roll Express.
Yeah, I knew we were getting there. You had and that was like the first season. That was kind of like the majority of the talent.
Oh, you had the Dalton brothers.
The Dawson
brothers, excuse me.
You had someone so tough they could ride down Ethiopia, which, no, wait, never mind. I don't want to get us canceled.
Too late. So like, yeah, I feel like I feel like it was it had a strong roster. It just I feel like you could look at today's roster, and I think there's a lot of parts of today's roster that are as good, if not better, than what we had that first season. We also forgot to mention Tim Storm. We also forgot to mention Zicky Dice. We also forgot to mention there was a lot of Ring of Honor talent that was coming in too. We had the villains, Marty Skrull. Well, I mean, I guess he wasn't technically there, but we had
he would make an appearance in it.
Yeah, we had Brody, we had Flip Gordon. So I mean, we
Caleb
had some.
Conley.
Say that again.
Caleb Conley.
Oh yeah, Caleb. Yeah, of course, yeah. So there was a lot of good talent, but I feel like right now we have maybe even arguably better talent. I mean, Tom Latimer's role has changed significantly. The tag team division, I feel, is superior now than it was back then. You know, with both Hawk Ari and the inclusion of our tag team champions, Lara Bellion. I feel like we have some solid junior heavyweights. Jack Stain made his return in the last episode of season 2. But you know, we get a lot more of him now, and I feel like it was a lot better. Sorry, I needed a drink there. Dave Scooby says a lot of people are still in the dark that the NWA is back live on YouTube. When they went to fight, they lost quite a few viewers. And this is, again, if I was running the NWA, which I'm not, but if I was running the NWA, this might be the time where I'm going to invest in some YouTube advertising dollars. And I don't know, like AEW has so much content that's released directly on YouTube. We know Impact does a lot of YouTube. We know the WWE has a lot of YouTube. If I'm the NWA, I'm trying to buy time on those advertising for YouTube, or for those YouTube channels, to get myself out there. Hey, you know, you're looking for an alternative. Hey, you want more traditional style wrestling? Although that's not exactly true. Let's just putting it out there, because I think a lot of people don't know what's going on. Like Scooby said.
All right. Well, let's look at the card for the.
Oh, someone's got to take medicine.
Yeah, that's me. And I will here in a minute. Let's look at the card for the 31st for the live show.
So
and you people out there, well, let me go through it, and then we can talk more in detail about it. But I want you people out there to tell me which one has you really chomping at the bit to watch. So this is what I see so far. For the NWA US Tag Team titles, the Fixers versus, is it the Country Gentlemen?
Yes, it's on the screen.
Yeah. Oh, cool. I was looking at another spot. Okay, so the Fixers versus the Country Gentlemen.
Who are the Country Gentlemen?
Anthony Andrews and AJ Kazana.
Okay.
They're not a bad team, not a bad tag team. They're not even bad wrestlers. In fact, I kind of like Kazana.
I'll be honest, I kind of hope that the Country Gentlemen win the titles.
I think it would be nice. I think that title needs the refreshing of new champions.
Yeah.
I think they've gotten a little bit like the TBS title in AEW, where okay, it's on Jade Cargill, and nobody's expecting to ever lose it, and so, or the television title, like when it was on Tyrus, it's almost becomes meaningless. And so, yeah, it would actually be good. Now they have defended, the Fixers have defended titles against the Country Gentlemen once already successfully.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see if we do get some excitement there. Okay. We also have a no tables match between Bully Ray and Odison, and nobody knows what exactly a no tables match means, since by definition, all standard wrestling matches should be no tables matches. So, just a thought. So, if somebody uses a table, that's an automatic disqualification. Wasn't that always the case? I don't know. Or if they touch a table, is it Okay. We have Psycho Love, which is Angelina Love and Fodder versus Camille and Tom Latimer. And
So wait, Angelina Love and excuse me, and what's his name now? Davey Richards on Wish.
Davey Richards, the sequel.
By the way, real quick, I do want to interrupt because we were talking about fodder. If our boy Kerry Morton holds on to that junior heavyweight title up until June, fodder gets a shot at him. And I love that this promotion is promoting a NWA World Junior Heavyweight title match. I love the fact that Kerry Morton's on the card. It's even cooler that it looks like fodder is now part of the NWA. But why in the world are they still using the junior heavyweight title that our boy Barrett Brown held last? I mean, we haven't seen that belt since Barrett Brown. Someone update that graphic for them, please.
Probably did a Google search, honestly.
Yeah, maybe.
It's nice to know that he's cannon fodder, though.
Oh.
So I mean, I don't know anything about fodder.
Well, I just told you he's getting a title shot in June, so you got that.
I don't know.
You need a mutter and a fodder.
And of course, we've talked about Angelina Love in the past, so let's not rehash that.
Hello, mutter. Hello, fodder.
I have a question for you. Does this have to be a win for Camille and Latimer?
No, absolutely not. No, in fact, I would have them take the loss. In fact, I would have Camille take the loss because then it gives you something that was completely unpredictable. And for a show like this, it's going to have to be somewhat unpredictable. And I don't care if it's, someone cheated to win. I don't care if someone hit her with a chair or something. But I don't believe it's an absolute win for Tom and Camille. And I think it actually would do so much more for fodder and love if they come out on top.
I mean, let's say it's a clean victory with Angelina Love over Camille. Does that really get you any interested in a Camille versus Angelina Love title match?
About as much as any Camille match right now, because unfortunately they're not good at building up challengers. At least it's an attempt.
I guess. I don't know. I wouldn't want Latimer to lose, but I don't know. There's nothing about that match that I feel helps anybody.
No, does it help anybody realistically? No, probably not. But it needs to be unpredictable. Whatever happens on this live show, it needs to be unpredictable. If you and I could sit here and tell you everything that's going to happen 2 weeks before the show happens, that's not good for the NWA. And especially when they're counting on this show to kind of get people's attention again. This show is supposed to drive directly to the February pay-per-view, which apparently is doing good ticket numbers already. I guess they've already sold like close to 400 tickets, which that's great. The only match announced has been Tyrus versus Cardona for the world title. So, I guess that audience is banking on that match. But like, what if what if nothing else makes sense? What if nothing else is good? I mean, they've got to build it up. So,
I mean, I understand your thing about needs to be unpredictable, but only to a point that it makes sense for it to be unpredictable.
sure. But like again, a mixed tag loss for Camille does not hurt Camille. A mixed tag loss for Tom does not hurt Tom. It's a meaningless division when there's no real rankings, there's no real title, there's no real benefit to wins or losses here.
I think I'm going to disagree with you on if they're clean. I think it does.
Okay.
If they're clean, I think it matters because because we're talking about trying to build people up. Some of us want Tom Latimer to be built up as a potential threat to the world title. I don't know that losing clean to fodder, even a mixed tag match, helps that case. All right. Speaking of predictable, we have the wedding between Aaron Stevens and Mae Valentine.
I have it on good authority that I have it on good authority that our boy Dave Scooby is going to make sure that he objects to that wedding.
I wish everybody would object to that wedding. But and this is something we talked about last week, where it's like almost if it doesn't go the way in the predictable way, it would almost be worse. So,
well, and then the scary thing too is that there is an officiant by the name of Sam Timo, which sounds an awful lot like Santino, which vaguely reminds me of Santino Marella, who I believe is an unrestricted free agent at the moment.
No, he's working for Impact.
For Impact.
Okay, well, regardless, look at the shape of that face and look at that head. I mean, it
doesn't mean it can't be him.
If there was a sock on that hand, I mean, I'm telling you, that would be a dead giveaway.
And then we have the contract signing between Tyrus and Matt Cardona. So question, do you want, Jaden, I'll ask you, should there be a physical altercation between Tyrus and Matt Cardona, or should it just be a lot of flapping of gums?
If both of them had a promo ability enough to make me want to see that match and to put asses in the seats, then it should only be verbal. I don't believe either of them have that ability. Maybe Cardona, but I'm not 100% sold. So there needs to be some kind of altercation where it makes me want to see that match. Unfortunately, I predicted some kind of physical altercation happens and somebody gets hurt. Legit.
Who's the face of this match? Who are the fans going to cheer for?
Well, Tyrus is definitely the ass of this match.
They're going to be in Florida. And now I don't know much about Floridian politics, but I know that there is very much a conservative state. And, the fact that our boy Tyrus appears on Gutfeld on a regular basis, I could see a overwhelming support for Tyrus as champion. But I don't know. I don't think that Tyrus has done anything to be a babyface. And then with that being said, Matt Cardona is kind of a piece of shit too. His motives have always been self-serving. He keeps saying, I'm going to save the NWA, but it's not about saving the NWA. It's about putting himself over.
Well, we do know Florida is heaven's waiting room.
Don't we know a few people that live in Florida?
I know somebody spends the winters there.
Okay.
I know a couple people spend the winters there.
Well, Kevin.
Yeah, I wonder who Kevin. I wonder if we can get Kevin to go. I'll buy Kevin's ticket if he goes.
Talk to Kevin.
Hey, Kevin.
And the last thing I see on this list, so I don't know if you have anything else or not, Jay, but I see Kerry Morton in action.
Yeah, we see Kerry Morton's going to be in action. That doesn't necessarily mean he's defending the title. Just means he's going to be in action. We know that my girls, Pretty Empowered, my besties, they'll also be in action. And that's kind of what we have so far in terms of the show. Now, that's a lot to fit in, 55 minutes of TV. Even if they did a little bit of overage, I mean, it's not something that they're used to doing with the NWA. It doesn't typically go more than 55 minutes to an hour. But it sounds like they have a lot of yeah, Poyle, of course, yes, Poyle's right. We're also supposed to have the finals of the Champion Series. That's a lot of wrestling for 60 minutes. You know what I mean?
Maybe it'll be 2 hours.
Maybe.
Reminiscent of the old Saturday night. I find it interesting that the thing that I'm looking at, that's not actually mentioned.
I've seen the graphic. I knew that was coming. I don't know why I didn't have that up here. I guess I just didn't download it when I saw it. But
selective memory.
Yeah, well, yeah, I'm not gonna disagree with that. Look,
we were wishing.
Well, no, you know what? I take that back because I like the Champion Series. I thought that was a good concept. I know that wasn't your favorite, DK, but I felt like that was the series is a great way to kind of reset whatever's going to be happening next for the NWA. And I feel like someone just got text. I feel like it's coming. Wait for it. I feel like this will be a good way to kind of get going with what happens next. Because look at it this way, right? The winning team, every winner is supposed to get a shot at a title, right? There's supposed to be some sort of title match. So like Genocide and Maddie Genocide and Maddie maybe getting a shot at Pretty Empowered. Or Taya Valkyrie getting another shot at Camille, or on the flip side, maybe Black Cheese getting a shot at Kerry Morton, or EC3 maybe cashing in to get a shot at Tyrus. I mean, there's a lot of ways this can go. And don't forget, Thrillbilly Silas is on that team Tyrus too.
Well, I think we'll see. Obviously, with Kerry Morton being one of the captains of Team Rock and Roll, that we see where he could very easily be in action as part of that.
Yeah.
I don't guess either of the tag team champions are on the teams, but
no. And then also just looking at this poster, right? So like Tyrus is the world champion. So if his team wins, theoretically, one person from that team is going to challenge him for that title. So it could be his cousin Trevor. It could be, the up and coming superstar Thrillbilly Silas. It could be the seasoned veteran in EC3. Hell, it could
Ronaldo.
be Rolando. It could be any one of these guys. So I mean, I feel like that's an interesting dynamic, and maybe it's not the best for telling stories, but it certainly mixes things up and allows them to have some options on what they do going forward.
Jay, you drank the Kool-Aid.
I'm
sad. Jaden, what are we going to do now that Jay's drink Kool-Aid?
Oh, by the way, Luthez wanted to point out that he believes that he saw that Jamie Stanley is on his way back in. Jamie Stanley just put up a video recently, said that he's going to be back in the NWA in 28 days. I happen to think that Jamie Stanley is a very underutilized talent, and I think he would very much fit in with the direction that the NWA is going. And I would love to see him come back and challenge Jordan Clearwater for that TV title.
I would too. Was he injured?
I don't know. He just seemed to have less. So he came in as a tag team partner with Sam Rudo.
Yeah.
Sam Adonis. And they were the Rude Dudes, and kind of did a few enhancement style matches as a tag team. And then the Rude Dudes didn't break up on air, but El Rudo quit showing up to the NWA, and Jamie Stanley kind of took a role as a backstage interviewer? Question mark.
Well, yeah, for a while.
You interviewed the question mark?
No, sorry.
Yeah, because that was kind of where we had that was back when Mae Valentine was pro Tyrus.
Well, it was it was a USA segment, and he had his own, basically his own segment, the Stanley Screwdriver or something like that.
Right. It wasn't bad. It just wasn't good. But I don't think it wasn't his fault in my view. But I don't know. For some reason, I was thinking he was injured too. But that may just.
Oh, Poyo corrected me. It wasn't the Stanley Screwdriver. It was a Stanley Drill, which obviously makes more sense. But yeah, it was and it was like Ms. TV, like Poyo said, just a very snarky, very funny type commentary. I think he spoke to Max and was like really intimidated, if I remember correctly. But
no, I think my favorite thing was when he had Aaron Stevens on, and so later he had, like, the next week it was like Aaron and May, and so he goes, and he's going to Aaron, he goes, "You think you're better than me?" And May's like, "Well, he is." I cracked up at that one. I will admit that made me laugh, even though I didn't like the Mae Valentine direction they were going at that time.
Do you think that
this what Aaron Stevens hasn't shown me yet is a personality outside of the ring that he can get someone else over? I kind of forgot about that.
That was kind of, I remember that one being kind of creepy, like overly sexually suggestive, or maybe flat out just pervy. Is that a word, pervy? Can I say that on YouTube?
Probably not, but at least I don't think they have Facebook jail and YouTube. So,
boy, how did it feel to spend 3 minutes with America's jawline? That dude, Jamie Stanley, and his response was, "I'd rather slam my cock in a car door." That's the Father James Mitchell we remember. Yeah.
my. But I remember liking him as a wrestler.
I did too. I
Speaking of people I like as a wrestler, before you go on, Jay,
sure.
I also like Christy James as a wrestler, and not as a CJ, dressed up in a outfit from Vegas.
I like both.
Well, I mean, I like her in her outfit from Vegas for obvious reasons. But I mean, if the option is you can have her as a Vegas showgirl or you can have her as a wrestler, I would actually prefer her being in a wrestler.
I would too. Look, I think the pairing is unique. It's fun. It's silly, and I'm all for it. But I feel like Dodie says bubblegum. I'd much rather see Christy Jane back in the ring. I mean, she's a proven commodity. She's challenged Camille for the world title outside of the NWA. She was part of the Empowered pay-per-view. I don't see what the benefit of keeping her as a Vanna White parody when we could have her actually in the ring. And let's be honest, not to chastise the women's division, but she's a talented wrestler, talented than some of the other women that are on the roster. And I don't understand why you would leave her outside to be a parody of Vanna White when she could be inside challenging for the women's world title, or she could be paired with somebody else as a decent tag team. This is when it doesn't make sense to me. This is when I get a little frustrated with Billy's booking. If you want to use her as the Vanna White parody, sure, still do that, but put her back in the ring too, because she can actually go.
Yeah, especially as the NWA needs some top females, and she could be a top female. So
I guess Dodie didn't realize that Bubblegum can wrestle. Yeah, she's actually pretty good, Christy Jane. I recommend, if you haven't seen her wrestle, check her out. She was on an episode.
She wrestled in the NWA. I think she wrestled on an episode of Power before.
Yeah, I don't recall if she wrestled on Power. I know she was at the Empowered pay-per-view. I know she wrestled on an episode of Primetime Live, which at the time
maybe that's what I'm thinking.
The NWA and Night Wrestling Network were working together. I've seen her wrestle in my local SoCal Indies. I know
I've seen her wrestle here in Texas.
Yeah, she's a stalwart in Texas. I think she held the belt for our friends over at IHWE, right? She was their women's champion.
I think she was Queen of the Ring at one time. She
Okay.
was back when SWE was a thing that was actually doing something. She held the women's title there.
Well,
yes, she has wrestled at the NWA multiple times, champion around the world.
And Poyo, I hope you understand. We're advocating just to get her back in the ring because we know how talented she is. She's a great talent. I feel like when we talk about underutilized talents on the roster, she's definitely one of them.
And she's right. She does come out with that type of gear to wrestle. And then, kind of takes off the back and stuff like that. And she used to do a dance, I think, too, or something,
Yeah, it's like I want to say it's like paying homage to Brazil.
Yeah.
She is Brazilian.
Right. One of my favorite things were when her and May started talking.
Yeah.
In Portuguese and everything like that. And I guess it was Jake or whoever, left.
Yeah.
And May went to ask him a question. It's like, oh, he's gone. Oh well. They continued in Portuguese. Love her. Just
Willie Bowen says bring back PCO.
He's under contract.
Yeah, he's under contract with Impact, but if the moment ever changes, I would love to see PCO back in the NWA. Someone messaged me today on Instagram and said, hey, you know who could carry the NWA? Killer Cross. And I'm like, hell yeah, he could. But he's signed. And he goes, yeah, but Vince is back. So, who knows? And I want to ask Jaden, I want to ask DCam. This is fantasy booking, obviously, because as of right now, he's still under contract. But if a guy like Killer Cross did become available, is that someone you open up your pocketbook for? Is that someone, if you were the NWA owner, if you're the promoter, if you're the booker, is that a guy that must be on your roster if he's available?
I guess I will say no.
Oh.
And here's why. I think the potential of Killer Cross before he came back to the WWE was more in demand than the Killer Cross that is currently in the WWE. I think he's lost some of that luster in his return. So I think initially when he was the under-touted wrestler that wasn't getting the break and was being misused, I think the NWA could have gotten more out of him than if he's a one-time, two-time, three times, well, definitely not a lady, but a let-go superstar.
All right. I'm going to disagree to a point. Yeah, Vince is back and he fires Killer Cross again because he didn't want him to come back, blah, blah, blah. So let's just go with that scenario. If Cross comes back, shaves his head again, gets rid of the beard, he's still plenty jacked up, then goes back more to the NXT version of Cross than even this version's better than the gimp outfit they had with him the first time.
Yeah.
That Vince did. But it's still not the Killer Cross that was in NXT. And I think if you can get that guy back, that, yeah, you can bring him in and you can build something around him, similar to the way MLW uses Hammerstone and Jacob Fatu and that. My to a point statement is he's got to be booked right.
Well, I do know this.
And my just concerns with Billy is Billy has yet to show me that he can, for a long term, book somebody correctly.
So my take is more in line with DKM's and I guess more in line with Poyo's too, because Poyo said in the chat her short answer is yes. Her long answer is Yes. Did I do it right, Poyo? Probably not. And Poyo said as soon as he would leave, however, he would return to creative control of his own character. That was what made him a hot commodity after the fact. And one of the things that I if you watch some of his stuff that he puts out on Instagram, where it's a very high produced, it's not a WWE produced video, it just screams rock star. Like he just has charisma. It's almost like a movie. And these are what he's releasing on his own on Instagram. And I figure if he would take that same energy, that same charisma, and apply that to the NWA and be like, hey, I'm here. I'm here with the oh, we lost DK. I'm here, and I'm here to take that 10 pounds of gold, whether it be Cardona or Murdoch or even Tyrus. Like, he's a guy that's believable. He's a big dude. He can cut a good promo. And honestly, he's a guy that I think that could carry the NWA forward. Of course, you know, you put him in the ring with a guy like Jack Stain, he certainly doesn't look as big as he does, you know, in the ring with Matt Cardona, but he's still a specimen, if you will. And of course, if Scarlett comes with him, that's always a fun 1-2 punch. And Poyo says more gay lisp with the S, but close enough. But I honestly feel like he could carry the NWA, and for those reasons, you're right. I think his stock did drop a little bit after returning to the WWE, and I don't think as many people would be interested in working with him as they used to. You know, like a lot of people thought he was going to be headed to AEW. Some people suspected maybe Mexico, like AAA. Obviously, I don't think he was ever going to go back to AAA, but I really do like I like him, and I think he would be a great addition to the roster. So Jaden, if he's not the guy who you could see carrying the NWA, is there a guy either under contract that might not be, or somebody that you could realistically see maybe taking the NWA, taking a shot with the NWA?
See, I think where the NWA needs to do is work around with Impact and with Major League Wrestling. Because I would love to see like Josh Alexander. I'd like to see obviously Hammerstone. If he could work for United Wrestling Network, why can't he work for the NWA? I'd like to see Jacob Fatu, Davey Boy Smith Jr. come back.
Every name you've mentioned so far, I'm giving you a thumbs up. I agree.
I just had one before you said it. What was his name? Crap. He's African American. He's big. He works for Impact. I just want to go say it, and I forgot it now.
Moose,
yeah. I think Moose would be an excellent addition in the NWA. If they're going to have quote-unquote big, beefy wrestlers, I think that is the group of wrestlers that they should be circling around.
You don't get much bigger than Moose.
What was that?
You don't get much bigger than Moose. That guy is built.
Yeah. Imagine that as your core fighting for the NWA and throwing in the Pope and EC3 and Trevor Murdoch and even Cardona. That right there would be a core to build around. And so this is the thing. I know it's great having many places for people to work. And I know AEW, unfortunately, has picked up a lot of people and put him in spots where they're not really being featured. There really needs to be a third alternative. And the NWA isn't it, the MLW isn't it, Impact isn't it. But maybe if you take everything good from all of them and make one promotion.
Yeah.
I think that could be, with some money behind it, a serious third threat.
So what you just suggested, I mean, that's incredible. Obviously that the hard work around there is getting 3 different promotions to work together, though, because there's so much ego involved. And you know this. You've been in locker rooms, you've been in talent scout meetings, you've been behind the scenes. Ego is such a nasty bitch when it comes to pro wrestling, and I don't have a better way of saying it. Like, you know, for a short time we had the United Wrestling Network and the NWA working together, and that fell apart very, very quickly. You know, didn't even last an entire year. And I feel like, I think you're asking for a lot to have like a promotion like Impact or MLW. I mean, Court Bauer has his own agenda. You know, Court Bauer wants to make MLW a big thing. Of course, Billy Corgan wants to make the NWA its own thing, and Anthem still hasn't given up on Impact being its own thing. But yeah, I kind of agree with you with that. With that level of talent, I mean, you're at that point, you are a number 3. You are able to rival what they're doing in the WWE and in AEW, and I think it would definitely garner interest, especially because a guy like Hammerstone. You look at Hammerstone, and he just screams pro wrestler. You look at Jacob Fatu and what that dude can do in the ring, and it's mind blowing. And of course, Josh Alexander is a phenomenal athlete. He's been carrying Impact on his back for the last year and a half. And then, throw in Moose and some of the other names that we mentioned.
Here's the thing, though. They've done it with Davey Richards.
Yeah. Yeah.
Speaking of Davey Richards.
Yeah.
Yeah. They did it with Davey Richards. So what's stopping them from doing it with everything else? They've worked with Impact, and they've had a seemingly positive relationship with them recently.
Yeah.
What's stopping them from doing it other than they don't want to pay them?
That's another good point. And, obviously we don't have the answers to that. We're just speculating. Davey Richards is not the main event for MLW, and he wasn't the main event for the NWA. But I feel like Luthez said, he would be great for the junior heavyweight division. Willie Bowen says Laredo Kid would be great for the junior heavyweight division. I think Laredo Kid is also under contract with Impact, but you're right. And the thing about it is, you could totally do it and it not really upset what's happening in the other promotion, because Impact has its set talent and MLW has its set talent and the NWA has its set talent. And honestly, the NWA TV taping schedule is, right now it's like a pay-per-view and 3 days of TV tapings, and then you're done. Poyo just said Willie Mack is a free agent and would like to return. I don't know how much longer Willie Mack's going to be a free agent. He and Brian Cage had this outstanding match in LA that they aired on the AEW YouTube page, and then they just brought him in to have a match on Friday night as well against Brian Cage on Dynamite. And Willie Mack might get signed to AEW before it's all said and done.
Yeah, in purgatory.
Well, yeah, and I mean they would, by all accounts, they'd probably use them in the Ring of Honor brand, but even that is not. I mean, right now that's nothing either. It's just it's the Honor Club, Honor Club, and a few pay-per-views a year.
What is better at hiding? Do you have the AEW Dark, or do you have the Witness Protection Program that's Impact?
I see, and that's such a rough thing for you to say, but it's not wrong. I mean, you can't. Most of us don't get, what is access? I mean, that's not available on every cable subscription. When I had YouTube TV, it wasn't accessible that way. And then you could order it in the subscription to watch the Impact TV show. I think it's like $5 a month on YouTube, but I don't know a lot of people are doing that. And literally that's what we're paying to watch the NWA just a few months ago. So it's kind of hard to say. Poyo says this, though: Impact is at least a product which is standalone and not second fiddle to every other product in not one but two existing brands. And DK's eating something. What do you got there, DK? I'm getting hungry too.
Actually, it's just a roll.
Oh, I got plenty of those.
I disappeared because I needed to pee.
Well, thanks for sharing.
Well, I know, but
did you wash your hands?
Twice, actually, because I pet the dog. Then I decided I need to take my pills and eat a little something before I suddenly realized that the reason I was probably feeling a little run down was I haven't had supper yet. So, all you crazy people talking about crazy things, should Billy sell the NWA to Free Prince Jr.?
So, the short answer is no, they should work together. Because Oh, okay. So Freddie Prinze has experience with creative. Oh, Jaden just dropped out. Maybe he went to go get some food. Freddie Prinze has experience doing creative with the WWE. Obviously, he is has a history in Hollywood. He's done a lot for Hollywood. He's made a lot of money in Hollywood, and he's married to Sarah Michelle Gellar, right? I think they're still married.
Last I heard.
And I know that
he's back to TV.
What's that?
She's coming back to TV.
Oh, good for her. I know that he's a battery's dead. He is very knowledgeable about pro wrestling. He knows how to tell a story. These are all things that are good for creative, good for a booker. But what experiences does he have running live events? What experiences does he have producing a pro wrestling show? I mean, doing creative is different than directing and producing, right?
Okay, I'm going to agree with you, but you can hire people that do those things.
Sure.
I mean, you guys, I heard you guys talking some while I was moving around, and I heard something about, egos. There's always an issue. And so my thing is, you're not going to Billy's not going to ever give up creative. If you're going to give up creative, you wouldn't have to partner with, somebody. There are probably people there in his organization that could, run creative for him.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the realistic thing is, sure, could they work together and be, a powerful team to propel the NWA forward? Probably. But it's not likely to work that way.
No.
And so then the question is, back to my original question is, do we think somebody like Freddie Prinze Jr., who supposedly is out trying to open his own wrestling promotion, do you just say, hey, here, do what I did, buy this name, better luck to you,
I mean, look, that's certainly a thing that could be considered. Is this something that, if I'm Freddie Prinze Jr., I don't think that's a bad idea for me at all. If I'm Billy Corgan, I don't know if that's something I would like to give up. Again, Billy Corgan isn't hurting for money, right? It's not like he's like, oh, I'm so broke and I can't afford to do anything.
He's not hurting for money, but I don't know that he's willing to invest in he's a little bit, to me, like Sinclair was with ROH.
And that's fine. But like, until there's a reason for him to sell, why would he sell?
Because that is his sale.
The plane.
No, GK knows what I'm talking about. Because he might be getting tired of it. Wrestling really does wear on you, and especially when you're in the creative area. Having to deal with wrestlers' egos, having to deal with getting wrestlers on the cards and then something happens, and having to deal with TV tapings and pay-per-views, even if they only happen like once every 6 months. It's very, very taxing on you, and some people just don't have that.
I mean, you have to have a passion for it, and even then, it'll still kill you.
Real quick, I want to just point out that I shared our Discord server link in the chat. If you guys want to join some of our discussions that we have offline, we do have a Discord for the Alliance Wrestling Group. If you guys want to be a part of it, all you got to do is join. We're friendly, like-minded wrestling fans. If you're just looking for a place to talk wrestling or really almost anything, feel free to join. We have a general chat. We put up free matches that we find from time to time. A lot of Dangerous Adrenaline Wrestling Gladiator matches end up there. We'll put a lot of United Wrestling Network stuff up there. Check it out. All right, back to the regular broadcast.
Yeah, but seriously, it's very taxing. You have to love it, and you have to be insane to be in anything in wrestling. And if you're not insane, yeah, if you're not insane, it will drive you there. So,
it sounds like you're speaking from personal experience.
Oh yeah, very much so. It is very taxing to deal with professional wrestling. Having to deal with a building deciding that it's not going to honor its deal for you to rent the building and last minute, or having to find a ring because the one you had is sold out to somebody else, the one you were renting, or having to get with a wrestler who is fine and being booked for months, and then all of a sudden has to pull off because they have a better opportunity, or having to deal with people thinking they're having a better opportunity, but instead they're going to be on an undercard on an independent show with the Hardy Boys, and they think that's what's going to get them over. It's very, very frustrating to have to deal with that bullshit stuff. And it's very, very taxing, and it makes you not love wrestling. Having a wrestler who you've been looking forward to have back, and then he can't do it because his new job doesn't allow you to do it. That's you plan things around that you want to do, and then it just doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
Trying to get the wrestlers you want, but they are somewhere else, or they have a son's birthday party that day, or something like that. There's always something, and then, yes, I know everybody has their own lives, and it's an independent contractor, and there's everything else, but it's very, very, very frustrating to deal with professional wrestlers, and that's why Billy Corgan might sell, because he just might be fed up with it.
I mean, and I'm not saying that Billy's ready to sell today.
You're right.
But, he's talked about TV and being close and all that. Well, again, we've heard that since before Power went to YouTube the first time.
Bruce Tharp was talking about TV.
Bruce Tharp talked about TV for 5 years, publishing books. And, even Jim Cornette was talking about how Dusty, when they signed some deal somewhere and they were
Can we make a major motion pictures and sitcoms, Daddy?
Exactly.
Uh-oh. Is he coming back? Are we getting some Dusty?
It's weird times. You know what? No. Bruce Tharp is definitely 100% only Bruce Tharp.
Yeah, there's never going to be another Bruce Tharp. I think it would be both in an insult to both of them to compare them to each other. You're right. And Poyle's talking about Billy's connections, and this is true. Look, Billy is more connected, has more money, is willing to spend more than what Bruce Tharp ever could. I think Bruce Tharp genuinely had the NWA's best interest in heart when he started. I think towards the end he was looking for a buck. I think Billy Corgan has the best interest for the NWA when he started, and I still think he's still there. I don't think he's doing anything I don't think it's in his heart or in his actions that he's trying to hurt the NWA. I just think some of the decisions he make don't necessarily gel with the audience. And I don't think that's him being negative or trying to be hurtful. I just think that, like putting the belt on Tyrus is very self-serving for him and Tyrus. I don't see an audience that says, hey, we needed Tyrus to have that world title. Nobody was clamoring for Tyrus to have that world heavyweight championship. There were people who were like, yeah, put the belt on Cardona. There were people saying, hey, put the belt on Murdoch. Then you had me over here saying, hey, put the belt on Pope. But I didn't hear one person say, put the 10 pounds of gold on Tyrus.
And I do want to make one comment. It's not that Billy doesn't have connections. I don't doubt that at all.
Yeah.
And I mean, the guy is, alternative rock star. And so I'm not questioning that. I'm saying whether he's on a different level, whether he has connections we don't know, whether we have connections we don't understand. After 5 years, he's got the same TV deal that, as far as a real TV deal, that, everybody else got, from Tharp to
the
New Power, whatever. It's not easy, which is what we're talking about. It isn't easy. It is hard. It is time consuming.
That's
It
what
is
she said.
frustrating.
That's what she said.
Yeah, exactly. And it will wear you out. You know, that's what Jaden's talking about. This will wear you out.
Don't you think, though, that Caleb Dune, that Kanan Jarrus would also have good connections too if he's ran the NWA? I mean, he was part before Order 66. He was part of the Jedi Order.
That point.
Oh, geez.
You know, he can get some of that Scooby douchebag money and maybe work with Buffy the Vampire Slayer and get some kind of deal going.
I honestly, and I'm not trying to speak for Pollo here, but I don't think that that's the conversation that Pollo was having. I think Pollo was saying, like, look, Billy has got more connections than Bruce. 100%. That's not even debatable. It's a different story though when you bring up what's his name again?
Freddie Prinze Jr.
Yeah, Freddie Prinze, Mr. Michelle Gellar. Obviously, that guy has some connections, and I think that's why he's so attractive to a lot of would-be wrestling fans. For him to be joined in the world of pro wrestling, and him start his own promotion or to buy a promotion, because they know that he's, number one, passionate about the product, but two, that he has the history working with the WWE, and three, the connections. But I still don't think that Billy Corgan is in any has the slightest interest of selling the NWA. But I don't know. I'm not always right.
Well, and again, I'm not saying he is today. I first posed the question just as something to talk about. You know, do we think somebody like maybe Freddie Prinze Jr. could do something or whatever? It's just.
It's just, again, it is very, very difficult. And even with those connections, apparently they're not connected enough to be able to get on TV.
No, I mean,
let's just look at the last statement. She said, you know, people have meetings, make meetings with Billy just so they can meet with Billy. Okay, well, that's great for them, and they get to meet their icon. But yeah, you can talk business, but in the long run, it doesn't mean they're interested in having wrestling. Wrestling still has a bad reputation.
You look at somebody like David Marquez, and I know that he isn't everyone's cup of tea either, but he's on in so many different markets, and that guy's wrestling promotion is based on advertising. He's not spending Billy Corgan money on talent. He doesn't have Billy Corgan money to spend on talent. His venues, he's not spending Billy Corgan money on that. Again, he doesn't have that money. What he has is connections to small markets. He has connections to advertising. And that's how that show is getting produced. And I'm not saying that his talents are getting paid tons and tons of money. No, they're probably making pennies on the dollars compared to what some of the WWE and AEW contracts are. But there's guys that are on those shows because they're getting paid, they're getting exposure, and he's making money doing wrestling on TV. It's a TV program. And I'm not saying that the NWA has to follow the same formula, but I am saying there are ways around it. Pollo says exposure bucks. I mean, yeah, sure. I'm not going to sit there and ask Danny Limelight what he's getting paid as world champion or what Jordan Clearwater was making as world champion, but I imagine it's a little bit more than exposure bucks. And then Pollo also wants to point out that let's also remember that 2+ of the 5 years were a screeching halt to COVID. And yeah, you're 100%. That is factual. You cannot debate that. The pandemic pause really did, pardon my language, but fucked everything up. They were supposed to be in a small arena for the Crockett Cup 2020. They had a main event which did well the year before. It was going to be Nick Aldis versus Marty Scurll. They were leveraging to get to that next step.
I'm going to agree with that to a point, but here's my point. Billy Corgan himself has said that he is on schedule with his 20-year plan. He's 5 years into it, and he's on schedule.
Here's another thing, too, that I don't think people really have understood the argument with. TV is not what it used to be.
Right.
TV is, people are losing millions of dollars on TV right now just to hope it does well on streaming.
Yep.
So TV might be a completely foreign concept in 10 years.
Oh, I definitely believe that it's a dying format because, like, look, I haven't had cable TV in like 5 years. Uh, I cut the cable years ago. I pay just me speaking personally. I pay for Hulu. I pay for Peacock. I pay for Netflix. I pay for Disney Plus. Amazon Prime is thrown in because we have the Prime membership. Poyo says I literally don't own a TV. And I don't necessarily think traditional TV is the end goal. And I don't either. I've heard Billy say that there are talks with several streaming companies. I mean, who knows? The NWA could be on Amazon. The NWA could be on Netflix. Before it's all said and done, the NWA could be on any one of these platforms if the right opportunity presents itself.
Right. And we have to watch and be careful with all. I mean, there was a time getting on Netflix would be great. And, some people question how much longer Netflix can survive. And like I've said, by the time you get all the streaming services, you pay as much as you did when you had cable.
I'm probably paying more.
Yeah, but the benefit is, I don't even know. I'm thinking about it now. Maybe I'm wrong at this situation, but at least I can watch what I want to watch when I want to watch it.
Yep. And that's and that right there is why it's still beneficial. That's why streaming is so much more beneficial.
I pay to see The Mandalorian, and if I get The Bad Batch along with it, that's great. I pay to see Cobra Kai, and anything else on this like I watch.
Where are they? I don't even know where they are.
Where Cobra Kai?
Mm-hmm.
Netflix,
California. No,
Cobra Kai started off as one of the YouTube originals. Like it was
right.
YouTube had that streaming platform for a minute, and then they disbanded, and Netflix got the rights to Cobra Kai. But like at one point Yahoo had its own streaming service. Do you guys remember that? It was they had I
believe you, but I have no memory of it.
The most famous show that they had was the last season of Community. Was part of their deal, and it's one of those things. Poyo brings it up too. If done properly, YouTube is a very viable option. The shortfall is compensation, and I think that's what we're talking about. The first 2 seasons of the NWA, when they had such a huge following and 200,000 views on shows, was certainly something that they could have built upon. And of course, everything came to a halt. And again, you have to just blame the pandemic for that. The pivot, I think, should have happened much sooner. And I don't know that going exclusive to Fight was the right decision, but it is what it is. Now that they are back on YouTube as not exclusive to Fight, I should say. The pay-per-views. There's going to be an increase in price for pay-per-views. If you want to watch it now, DK, you and I used to just get it for free as part of our all-in package, but now that's not a deal anymore. And so if I want to watch this pay-per-view coming up in February, I'm paying $25 for it. Shit, I was paying $45 for the entire year and got everything last year. So this year, the cost of doing business, the cost of being an NWA fan is every pay-per-view is going to cost me about $25. And maybe some of them more.
Well, and some of this I'm going to blame on Crockett for selling to TBS.
We're going back in the way back machine.
Well, and here's my reasoning why. When TV, go watch the first episodes of Raw.
No.
When they were like an hour long, and the big event was the 1, 2, 3 kid who was out wrestling as a jobber every week under a different name.
The Lightning Kid.
Yeah, he was the Lightning Kid outside, but then when he went WWE, he was like the Cannonball Kid. Every week he'd have kind of like a new gimmick and he'd lose. And so then he beats Razor Ramon. And that's when they named him the 1, 2, 3 Kid, because he got the 1, 2, 3. And everything. And so the thing was, anything can happen on Raw. Do you know what Raw was? Raw was the standard almost studio-based show, or early arena TV taping type show of primarily enhancement matches.
Yeah,
that didn't have main events.
It was
TBS.
all main events. They had Shawn Michaels versus Max Moon.
Exactly.
That's a main event anywhere in the country.
Exactly.
Max Moon was severely underrated. Are we talking Conan or are we talking Pat Tanaka?
So,
no, we're talking Paul Diamond.
Paul Diamond. That's who I meant.
So Turner buys Jim Crockett Promotions assets. And, what do they want? They want TV content. They want ratings. And so they go, what can get us bigger ratings? And they go, well, if we put maybe a main event match on, stuff like that, Sting versus Flair. Well, that's great. Well, then what are we going to do next week? We'll do them again. and you put people in charge that know nothing about wrestling. And so they're just kind of following along, and, you get tag teams like the Ding Dongs or the Hunchbacks. Was that what they were called, Jaden? Do you remember?
There was a Hunchbacks. There was the Ding Dongs. There was the question marks. Oh, wait, wrong company.
What about the Dups? Stand Up and Bowed Up?
Yeah. Well, there was the whole thing with the Hunchbacks was that because they had the big hunchback, they couldn't be pinned.
Whew.
Because you couldn't get both the shoulders down. They would just roll back and forth. They never actually made it on TV, unlike the Ding Dongs, who by the time they had their first match with their little bells going all over the thing, even the commentary was making fun of them.
One of
the doors, and
one of the things that Bruce Pritchard was talking about was that I guess it was the Von Brauners, when they would come into Texas, their manager had a whistle and would have whistles to tell his opponent, his tag team, what to do, and so the promoter started selling whistles. It's a great way to sell merch, is like distract the other team, the bad guys. So they're selling whistles all over the stadium. And then the next week they had flashlights to cue the wrestlers what to do. So then they sold a bunch of flashlights. It's brilliant marketing strategy.
Yeah. But anyway, my point was TV started becoming, in the Turner area and Turner companies, TV was more important than the home shows.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, anyway, stop doing that, Jay. Anyway,
I can't help it if Pollo's funny.
Yes, but it's distracting me from my point. So back in the day, TV was used to sell the show.
Yeah.
And so there's no show to sell anymore. And so in a way, yeah, I think YouTube and some of those things, they could be. I mean, let's remember Memphis drew, like ratings of like
30.
30. World Class drew in the 20s. And not million, but the rating numbers back before they just used.
Both. I think, can you stop putting these on until he's done his damn point?
But both, dear.
I know you like to put ends in this thing, but I like this podcast to eventually end,
No, it won't.
No?
No. We're
going
to
free for all,
We're going to go forever and ever and ever. Amen.
I'm glad it's free. Nobody's going to pay for this.
God have mercy, including us. God have mercy on our soul.
We're paying for it for sure. I'm paying for it right now.
Hey, you know what? I pay for the software. By the way, last night the other guys went 2.5 hours, so I'm just trying to drag it out so we can beat that.
Yeah. Of course, if we wanted to beat them in a good way, we'd end it now. But
we'd ended it half an hour ago.
No kidding. My point is to all that is that wrestling fans now are accustomed to this. You need to have a big show, and it needs to have main events, and it needs. Actually, I wish somebody, and I've said this about the NWA in the past. I go, I'd rather they go back to running live shows at bigger venues, and that you use the YouTube show as a way to promote it. Because, let's remember those studio shows were making higher ratings in markets than the national shows now.
Yeah.
It's just, and yes, TV is different, and you're probably not going to draw the ratings or the number of people that you used to an extent, but you can't deny that, WWE can boast and go, oh, look at this clip. We have this clip on YouTube and it got, 1 billion views. Yeah, it was 3 minutes.
But that's the technology. That's the way things are going. Shorts and TikToks. They're not very long, and that's all the people have the attention span for nowadays.
And nobody watched the other videos. Their other videos have, a tenth of that, but they'll point to the one that got, the 1 billion views or whatever.
The most watched TikTok of all time is a girl mimicking the M to the B part of a song. M to the B, it's M to the B, M to the B, M to the B, M to the B, bam. That's the most watched TikTok of all time. And that's what the problem we're dealing with nowadays. I think they should go back to squash matches because at least they're short. Maybe that's what they should do. They should do short squash matches and then just have really good promos and interviews, kind of like with what Jim Crockett Promotions in Memphis kind of were anyway.
Yeah. No,
when they first said they were going to do a studio show, I thought that's what they were going to do. And then you would build up to a pay-per-view.
Same. I was you remember that first season, I flew out because I knew that they were doing the TV tapings. We were all informed that there was a TV taping. We didn't even know the name of the show when I flew out to Atlanta. I went to the press conference where they kind of explained what it was. It's going to be a return to studio style wrestling. I kept laughing. I'm like, Dave Marquez has been doing studio style wrestling for the last 15 years, but go ahead. And as he was explaining, this is what it's going to be. This is what it's going to be. And I don't know that they stayed true to that vision, but I don't know if they had a lot of options. They're trying to put out entertainment. They're trying to put out something that's going to keep people viewing. I think both of you guys are right. I think more squash matches would benefit the NWA. And I really wish there was a way that they could start running more live events. And I know that's, Billy has mentioned that hey, that's the plan. We're going to be doing more live events. Good. Do more live events, because I think that's where you're going to get that greater connection to the audience. You're going to get that greater connection to the fans. I mean, look, when Power first debuted, I flew from Los Angeles to Atlanta. I know that there were people driving in from South Carolina to Georgia. I know people were driving in from Ohio to be at that show. I know that
nobody from Ohio is allowed to leave that state.
Oh no, there was at least one, and I know
they
that
didn't leave. They escaped
security.
There are people in Tennessee who flew to be at that show. That's how important it was for a lot of us. And like, we'll go back to the 70th anniversary show. People were flying in from all over the country to be at that 70th anniversary show because it was special, it was unique, it was important. If you give us those same style of matches on a weekly TV, the pay-per-views seem less important. The Poyo says, there's someone from Ohio, darn it. The NWA roster, dagnabbit. But I agree with you guys that if these TV tapings, if USA and Power were both kind of, I don't want to say marginalized, but kind of went back to more of a, hey, the main event of this show is going to be a number one contender for the TV title, or the main event of this show is going to get an opportunity to wrestle at the pay-per-view, and kind of scale back and not give us so much, and then have more monthly pay-per-views or more live events. I think that's a better recipe for success.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying that I'm not saying that this would be successful. I'm saying that if I was put in charge, this is probably what I would do, which is I would probably try to have like a weekly show somewhere.
Yeah.
Live event show somewhere.
Yeah.
Friday, Saturday, Thursday, it doesn't matter. I would basically feature the television championship and the United States Tag Team Championship on the shows. And honestly, I probably only have one. Maybe two, and it would be more of the Georgia Championship Wrestling style, where it's about 50% wrestling, 50% talking. And the wrestling is primarily enhancement matches with a TV title or whatever, basically being the turn across the massive. I don't doubt that. But, but then I also wonder, could you do like an old territory or not? I mean, I don't know if instead of running,
I will say this, and to Poyle's point, like, yeah, you're right. A lot of the talent doesn't live in one centralized location. There's a lot of talents in California. There's talents in Florida, talents in Texas, talents in Tennessee. Here's the thing, right? Hear me out. A local show to Nashville, because that seems to be where a lot of the talent was located. I don't know if that's changed. A weekly show in Nashville could be your live event. Your TV tapings that you're doing currently could be your power. And there's a way to make it work. Because I don't need, no offense to the Fixers, but I don't need Jay Bradley and I don't need Wrecking Ball Legursky on every show. I only need them on some shows. So bringing them into one TV taping a month and the TV tapings for Power, I think would be totally sufficient. And I think to DKM's point, if they were doing a weekly show, maybe not even at the Nashville, like the Skyline Studios, what if Billy invested in a small building for himself where they could do live wrestling, one day a week? And I know that seems kind of maybe that's a little bit more than what they need. But look, I've been to Nashville. A lot of the people here have been to Nashville. It's not like there isn't a shortage of live event venues that if Billy Corgan, with all of his connections and his his music sound, goes down there and says, hey, look, I'll do a monthly show here if we could tape every Friday night here. I'm sure that somebody would be interested in that.
And you don't have to bring everybody every week.
Right.
I mean, you can put, at one time in world class, Dallas and Fort Worth were separate bookers, for the city. And Fort Worth people would use primarily Fort Worth guys, and Dallas would use primarily Dallas guys, and then it was the upper card. So you don't have to every week have, Tyrus in the main event defending the world title. But if you could put a 7-match card.
I think that's directed at both of us, but either way.
Probably. But, you can put a 7-match card that has 3 matches that are basically the, locals, including locals that are over, and then, just bring in 4 guys. And if there are 4 or 5 guys that live around the area, even better.
Yeah.
But, you can't. And I'm going to say this again, at some point, you're going to have to lose money. Honestly, the goal is to not lose it long. The goal is to, get it back as soon as possible. But at some point, you're going to have to lose money, or you're going to, get like they were saying about where the pay-per-views are the thing. But you're trying to build to a pay-per-view. You're trying to make people want to see things. And I just don't. And you got to drop this casual fan bullshit. I mean, there is no casual fan. I've said it before. I'll say it again. There is no casual fan in wrestling.
I'm going to disagree on that one, DK.
Well, my thing is that a casual fan, in the way that most people are using it, is they're wanting a WWE fan.
Yeah. Okay.
There are casual people around here that may go to a show that's in their backyard, but they're not going to drive to the other side of Fort Worth. I'm one of those people. But when you're going, well, I want to pick up the casual fan for my show or whatever you're saying, well, there's between 1.7 and 2.5 million people watching WWE, and I want to steal some of them away to watch my show. And you're not going to. That's why they do the sports entertainment. That's why we have a wedding.
Yeah.
Because Billy has, I don't know if he's flat out said it like this, but he's at least said things to the thing of,
Here, don't read that. Make your point, and then I'll put it up.
That, he's interested in more than just his current base of fans, which, sure, you want to grow. But you can't turn off your current base of fans at the same time unless you're replacing them 2-1.
Sure.
Here's the thing: you're not going to out WWE, WWE,
right?
And that's the problem. You're not going to have the production values, the star power, the home-built audience in the WWE. So why try to copy them? Because you just come off as a pale imitation. Nobody should try to be the next ECW. Nobody should try to be the next Jim Crockett Promotions. Nobody should try to be the next WWE. They should be the first them. The NWA has a slight exception because of the name value and association with it, but they should try to be the first NWA and be something special and not another cheap ripoff of AEW, Impact, WWF, WWE, Jim Crockett Promotions, AWA, Herb Abrams UWF, or whatever the hell they want to be.
All right, let me interject what Poyle said, and we'll start wrapping it up for the night. Poyle said, generally speaking, oh wait, we already said that. Poyle said, so let me speculate based exclusively on gut instinct. My guess is the NWA, as Billy suggested, is moving to an increased taping schedule, which will require shorter intervals between shows. And I think that is likely to include hitting new and various locations. I know 2 locations were discussed for February 11th through the 13th, and neither were in Tennessee. And Poyle also points out that she is a clear and present sign that the NWA is looking to evolve its fan base. And that's true. And I think that's the correct way to evolve your fan base, by including interesting acts, including different acts that I think could bring in, like you said earlier, Poyle, you were literally mining people on Twitch.tv. You're mining an audience for the NWA right there. You are a personality that, at least I can speak for myself, and I think DKM as well. We think that you add a lot of value to what you're bringing to the NWA. The relationship with Thrillbilly has been fun. You bring a lot of an interesting dynamic. And if the drag community wants to follow you to the NWA, I'm sure Billy Corgan would be more than happy to take their dollars. And I think that would be an interesting aspect. I would pop if I showed up in St. Louis and there was a ton of drag queens there, as well as regular wrestling fans that aren't drag queens. I think that'd be a very interesting dichotomy and a weird audience as well. But I also feel like,
but they have to be dressed like Dolly Parton since it's her birthday.
Yes. And then Poyo says, we're going to Tampa, a first for us in recent years. And then the other location discussed would also be a new one for us, as in a third location, which was discussed last year. Well, this is great. I mean, that's great. And it's good news because, again, at the crux of this free-for-all podcast and every podcast that has ever aired on the Alliance Blog Network, it's been about what we like and dislike about the NWA. And ultimately, our hopes for the National Wrestling Alliance is that a good product will come and keep the NWA history, tradition, and legacy afloat. And this thing that we've invested so much of our lives into it. I have never put my own money into the NWA, but I have spent lots of my money following the show, literally flying to Nashville, flying to Atlanta, flying to China, flying to, thinking about flying to Mexico, getting a better camera, paying for podcasting software. Like, I've invested money in covering the NWA and in helping to promote a brand that I care so much about. These guys have been on here donating their time, their effort, their energy, because we're promoting the NWA. And I'm not saying that
I drove 9 hours.
Yeah, I'm not saying that the NWA owes me a dime, right? But I'm saying that at the crux of everything that we do on this show, it's to help further the National Wrestling Alliance and the United Wrestling Network, and whichever wrestling promotion we talk about, whether it be Dangerous Adrenaline Wrestling Gladiators, Major League Wrestling, IHWE, or AWS, or SoCal Pro, or EWF, or Mission Pro. I mean, any wrestling promotion we talk about here, we're trying to help promote that. So even though that we are critical of the NWA, we also are very positive about what the NWA could be and what we hope it will be. So with that being said, this has been a fun show. Hopefully we'll do more like this in the future. Hopefully we'll do some more like this in the future. I do think that DK, you said I was drinking the Kool-Aid, but I think I'm more excited about
the Kool-Aid.
I'm more excited about the NWA in 2023 than I was in 2022.
I'm waiting to see.
Jaden, I know that there are some events coming up for Dangerous Adrenaline Wrestling Gladiators. Is there any information, news you can share with us?
Yes, I can tell you already that there is a private event that's going to be taking place at Rowan University for the Chamberlain Student Center in Rowan University for Rowan After Hours. Their program to keep their kids from going out to the bars. Rawr. And it's called Rawsomania. I didn't name it.
Worst name ever, by the way.
Oh God, I know. But I can tell you that already signed is one half of the NWA United States Tag Team Champions, Wrecking Ball Legursky. And also a wrestler who the NWA fans may know very well, M-Dog, Mad Dog, Matt Cross.
Oh, former number one contender for the TV title
and junior heavyweight title, if I'm not mistaken, at one time. And I can already tell you that's involved. Plus, current Dangerous Adrenaline Wrestling Gladiators heavyweight champion Busky Eric Martin.
Is he selling shirts? You got to shoot me a link. I need a Busky shirt.
I'll make sure he has it when he comes to the next event that I'll be promoting. But there also will be Dangerous Adrenaline Wrestling Gladiators Tag Team Champions, Patch and Vinny the Fixer, also known as the Old School Empire. World Wrestling Grand Prix Champion Chris Steeler will be in action. In fact, you're going to hear it first. It's going to be Chris Steeler versus Matt Cross.
Oh, damn. Banger after banger. Chris Steeler only wrestles in bangers.
Yes. Clanger and bangers. And he will be, that'll be one of the many amazing matches on that card. But they got out a private one. But if you stay to the YouTube, who knows? It might show up on there depending on how I trick the system again. And then you'll also see on March 25th at the MaxFit Sports Center, located at 240 Delsey Drive South in beautiful uptown rustic Glassboro, New Jersey. You'll see whoever is the dog champion will be defending the dog championship will be on that card. Whoever is the WWGP champion will be defending that championship on the card. Whoever is the dog tag team champions will be defending on that card. And also, it'll be the alliance-wrestling.com convention, as we're going to see a whole bunch of people from the Alliance Guys podcast and some of our fans, I'm inviting every single one of you to come on down, up, over, under, however you get to Glassboro, New Jersey, and make sure you check out this dog as part of the first annual Alliance-Wrestling.com fan convention.
You know, there was at the 70th anniversary, someone did a meet and drink, and I was a part of that and met some really cool people. I don't know if meet and drink is what we'll be doing in rustic Glassboro, New Jersey, but I certainly plan on being there. And anybody that who is a part of our Alliance family will definitely get a beer from me if they want one, or we'll just hang out in the seats. I tend to jump up with my camera and take some photos, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, well, maybe you can get a photo with Busky Eric Martin with your new Busky shirt.
Yeah,
maybe we can get a photo so that the next time you do a shirt with everybody's faces, we can still hide Jaden's.
I don't think Jaden, the burns haven't healed up correctly. I don't think he wants to be on the shirt.
The only problem with the shirt is my image is trademarked by Dangerous Adrenaline Wrestling Gladiators and cannot be used without permission of Dangerous Adrenaline Wrestling Gladiators and Dog Subsidiaries, LLC, copyright, trademark.
That's gimmick infringement, brother. DKM, two things.
What?
First of all, have you been talking to David Fuller at all? Are we going to get a return of IHWE in 2023?
There's a hope. There's been talk about maybe trying to do a small show in the spring, not a big one. As if you've paid attention to the show recently, you know David Fuller has had some serious health problems, and it really set back all our plans that we had.
Yeah.
And so life happens, but I know we've talked about and we'd like to do some small shows. If he can, there's a chance that he may come on the show to talk about some of the future plans once he's feeling a little bit better. I'm not going to get into any details, but he's kind of gone from one health problem to another for about 7 months now.
Oh, wow.
And it's just been hard.
Yeah.
And but we do hope. I got a lot of belts here at my house that need to be defended, so hoping to put on a show, even if it's just a small one at a school.
Maybe, I don't know. I'm just spitballing here, but maybe a champion could travel to a certain state and a different state to defend the title. I'm just saying,
Maybe.
Anyways, I'm not trying to book anybody else's show. I'm only trying to worry about this podcast, which happens every Thursday. Next week, I almost forgot to
You said two things. What was the other?
I said two things.
I'm going with that. Yeah, sure.
He's probably going to ask you what your socials were.
Oh, I don't. Yeah. What are your socials, DK?
DKM FWTX everywhere, and I had to block somebody.
Because they were
bugging me.
Wedding photos.
That's good. I told you, but you kept wanting those memes. You were laughing at them, so I was going to keep sending them to you.
I told you after the bride that was bigger than the boat not to send me anymore. Anyway, by the way, I will say that for those of you that actually like sports, we are, of course, in the middle of the great college wrestling time in duels. So pay attention on some of the different sites, and you can watch some, real good amateur college folk style wrestling, which is different than freestyle wrestling. And
it's also different than Scholastic, believe it or not.
As someone that did both Greco-Roman freestyle and the high school style of wrestling, I can tell
that's more than both.
Well, okay. It's been, it's getting late, so let's wrap it up. Next Thursday, we will be joined by Mims right here on this podcast. Special thanks to Pollo for helping reach out to Mims. We'll be doing the old-fashioned Alliance Guys podcast where we'll talk to Mims. We'll get his background. We'll find out what drives Mims and all that good stuff. We'll be talking again about where he started, how he got to where he's at now, what his future goals are, and all that good stuff. So I hope you will join us for that. Of course, I will be here Tuesday, and that would be Tuesday for the pre-party with this guy right here. And we'll be talking about, just the things, news and information around the National Wrestling Alliance and around the United Wrestling Network. And, of course, we'll be back Wednesday with the other Alliance guys. I have no idea what they're going to talk about. All of us are kind of getting sketchy because we're running out of NWA wrestling content to watch. Pollo also wanted us to point out that Mims is a darn dirty no-gooder and said, ask Mims about how he came up fangirling over me and asked for a photo because his girlfriend loves me.
Real quick, Pollo. You should be glad the NWA is no longer in Tennessee because you're the only 10 I see.
Oh, Jaden.
I love it. All right.
Really good. I like it.
That was awesome. Okay, guys. Again, thanks for being here so much. We do appreciate you being here each and every Thursday. But until next time, we will see you at. Hold on now. Wait for it. I messed up and I'm lost the screen. Let me find it again.
See you at the Dubby. Oh.
Grab your Dubby and we'll see you at the matches. Thanks for joining the stream. This has been a presentation of Alliance-Wrestling.com. We genuinely appreciate your support. Would you consider subscribing so you'll never miss a future episode? I'd also like to remind you we do a live stream every Tuesday at 5 p.m. before NWA Power. You can find us on social media at The Alliance Blog. And until next time, we are The Alliance.